Hello everyone, this is the Insomnic, and this is Did You Know? Today's topic is the Aleutian Islands Campaign, the campaign where Japan invaded Alaska. The Aleutian Islands are the chain of islands at the bottom left part of Alaska, and in 1942, Japan invaded those islands. Most people seem to think that during World War II, America never had to fight on their home turf after Pearl Harbor. This is false, since on June 3rd and 4th of 1942, only 6 months after
a date which will live in infamy,
the Japanese Imperial Fifth Fleet bombed the U.S. military base of Dutch Harbor. Let's take a small break to admire how there was a base called Dutch Harbor, which was on an island called Unalaska Island, which was in Alaska, USA. Anyways, after bombing the military bases, they launched Gundams into Kiska Wait, what? They didn't have Gundams? What about Zakus? What the fuck did the Japanese fight the war with then? Regular people with guns? But that's so boring. Can't we just pretend they had Gundams? Fine. Okay, so they launched infantry and marines onto Kiska Island on June 6th and Attu Island on June 7th. The Japanese had a tough time at first as they had to fight the mighty natives called Aleuts, who numbered in the staggering tens, but they managed to conquer and quickly establish garrisons. As to the reason for the invasion of Chris McCandless's resting place, the general conclusion seems to be that it was to 1. Make sure the US wouldn't invade Japan from the north, and 2. Distract the US from the main Japanese force invading Midway Island. Americans were, of course, horrified by the Asian invasion to the north. But for a couple months, it was mostly ignored because they were still reeling from Pearl Harbor, and the US was desperately building back up their Pacific forces. U.S. forces led by Rear Admiral Thomas C. Kinkaid got into a couple of naval and air skirmishes until March. On March 27, 1943, Rear Admiral Charles Sock McMorris was sent to eliminate Japanese supply convoys. They met the Japanese fleet led by Vice Admiral Bushido Hosagaya and got into an engagement known as the Battle of Komandorsky Islands. I know those sound like Japanese islands, but they were actually Soviet, adding to the strangeness of this campaign. The Japanese fleet outnumbered and outgunned the Americans and wiped the floor with them. However, Admiral Hosagaya suddenly retreated, not realizing how much pwning he was doing, and fearing enemy aircraft would appear. The retreat effectively cut off the Japanese forces on Kiska and Attu Island from new supplies. After weeks of bombing Japanese forces on Attu Island, Operation Land Grab was commenced by the US on May 11, 1943. The 7th Infantry Division landed on the beachhead unopposed, but with a shortage of landing craft and equipment that failed in the Arctic weather. US soldiers suffered from frostbite, trench foot, gangrene, food shortage, booby traps, snipers, and dug-in enemy troops. The 301st Independent Infantry Battalion, led by Colonel Yasuyo Yamasaki, took the high ground and defended the island for 2 grueling weeks until they were forced back into Chicago Harbor. Who named the shit in Alaska, honestly? Anyways, on May 29th, with no hope of rescue because of the US blockade, Colonel Yamasaki led his remaining troops in a banzai charge, surprising the US troops. They broke through all the way to the rear, but after hours of bloody hand-to-hand combat, the Battle of Attu was over. Over 2,850 Japanese troops died, Colonel Yamasaki included, with only 29 allowing themselves to be captured. The US had 580 killed, 1,148 wounded, 1,200 severe cold injuries, 614 dead from disease, and 318 dead from booby traps and friendly fire. On August 15, 1943, the U.S. 7th Infantry Division, 6th Canadian Infantry Division, and 1st Special Service Force invaded Kiska Island in Operation Cottage. Due to heavy casualties suffered on Attu Island, Allied commanders expected another costly invasion. However, Japanese tacticians realized that Kiska Island was no longer defensible and bailed 2 weeks before the operation. Before realizing this, the US and Canadian forces mistook each other for the enemy and got into a skirmish that killed 28 Americans and 54 Canadians. Go team. By the time Kiska Island was declared secure, adding to the previously mentioned deaths, 130 Canadian troops got trench foot, a sea mine killed 71 and wounded 47 US sailors, and 191 troops went MIA, assumed dead from friendly fire, booby traps, and environmental causes. Operation Cottage to this day is known as one of the worst military failures of all time, and was also the end for the Aleutian Islands Campaign. So, today we learned that during World War II, the land of anime and Nintendo invaded Sarah Palin's homeland. And now you know. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you have any questions you would like me to answer in this series, leave me a comment or email me at insomnic07@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share. Peace.